You're all right. You wait right there. Stay. Stay. You're all right. It's okay. Here, come in here. Ugh. Yeah, dude, those are the best. Oh, I can't have this in here. Hold on. Okay. What's up, everybody? So here's the deal. I'm gonna build this lightsaber right here, and I've tried to do my best to set this up to where it's watchable. I thought about having some music on in the background, but I don't want to have to go backwards and make sure it's like not in the VOD. So it'll be all right. It'll be good. If there's any like concerns or issues, just let me know, and I'll see what I can do. But my oh, that's last. That's last, Kevin. So my main concern obviously was like being able to do a good job on it. So I'm not using my regular mic that would be right in my face because it's too hard to manage. I have a couple of added variables here. Come here. So I found this guy. Come here. Boy. I found this little guy out in traffic yesterday. And so he ended up having to come home with me while we look for his owner. So he's kind of down here whimpering around and stuff. And I'll try to keep the interruptions to a minimum. Are you good? You ain't even have a name, do you? No, I know you don't. It's okay though. It's all right. You're a good doggy, huh? All right. Can we talk about this lightsaber if I put you back down? Okay. All right. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. So here's what I've got shaken so far. So this right here is a Corbanth, which is the guy who sells them, Sith Planet, something. OWK4 saber. So it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4 saber. And I've got it apart right now. This is the grenade section, they call it. It's got 2 buttons right here. And right now let's see if you can... totally empty. Okay. Then the back part with the pommel, and then the emitter. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like what I've done so far here. What they do with these, since it has the blade that you can take out, and it's the pixel strip blade, there'll be a strip of, they call them neopixels. They look like this. If you can see that thing right there. That's a single little LED. But they're built into a big strip. Anyhow, they have a connector on the end that looks like this, those concentric circles. And they're conductors. The outside is the positive, and the next one in is the negative. And then the very center is for data, because it's anybody who's done any lighting, it's sort of like DMX. I mean, it's not that snazzy, but that's the data line. That's what controls it. And this part I'm holding is actually for another saber that's super similar. But actually, let me just grab. So this is the internal chassis for this guy, and this is what I'm going to be working on today. So I've already got this connector on the inside. This is what the end of the blade would look like. But on these particular sabers, these thin neck sabers, they have these in the chassis as well. And the whole idea behind this is whenever you pull the thing out, what I'm doing is I'm going to use a removable battery. And it's the same one for all the vape guys out there, the 18650 lithium ion batteries. And you have to get the ones with like the little buttons on the end. So it kind of looks like a ginormous AA. Okay. And you want to use protected ones. Remember when all of the, what are those things called? The hoverboards kept catching on fire? That's because they were using unprotected lithium ion cells. And what the thing does, do I have one laying around here? Hang on, let me see. This is kind of covered up. This little cap on top of this one, I can't use this obviously because it doesn't have the button on it. But inside of this cap, let's see if you can see it. It's a little bit of circuitry, and there's a connection that goes from the negative end up to the top through this this little chip. And if the current draw exceeds a certain amount, like if it's shorted out, it breaks the connection to the hot. It's pretty cool. It's like a little built-in circuit breaker, and that's what you got to have in these, or else they'll catch on fire eventually. That's why lithium-ion batteries can be quite dangerous. So anyhow, that thing's going to go right here. You'll be able to pop it in and out, but you have to be able to get this thing out of the saber to do it naturally. And so what we do is we take these spring-loaded connectors that I just happen to have one wired up here on the side. This little spring-loaded guy. Come on, focus up, camera. This Logitech camera I'm using only does autofocus. Let me see, drag it down a little bit. So it's got these little pins on it. That's what these brass things are. And these are LEDs. They're like tinier versions of that little pixel thing I held up earlier. And so what'll happen is the data pin's in the middle, then my hot pin's on the outside. This one's actually broken because some ding-dong broke it. It was me. Anyway, those LEDs will light up underneath the blade. So like if the blade's not in, you can still light up the saber and see like what color it would be and all that stuff. It's pretty dope. Anyway, what you have is one of these down inside the top of your emitter. See it in there? And so whenever you take the blade, that again has this connector on it right here, it would touch those pins. You can feel them spring-loaded in there. And that's what makes connection. And you just lock the blade down in place so it's touching the pins. Well, on thin neck sabers like this, you don't have a ton of room. So what I did, this chassis design comes from a guy. His business name is Goth 3D Printing, and I can't remember what that stands for, but it stands for something. Not 3D. That stands for three-dimensional. Shut up. Anyway, he designs tons of these things for all different types of saber manufacturers. And so this chassis right here was 3D printed by the Saber Armory, which is KR Sabers in the UK. Super great customer service there. But this thing, it's got this on the end. So inside of here, on the end of this, is another one of those spring-loaded things. And so when it's inside of this body, and you'll never have to take it out again, when you insert the chassis in there, that's how it makes connection to this end of the neck through here to the connection there. Pretty sweet, right? Works. It's a brilliant idea. It's a great solution to a tricky problem. Because this way too, if you ever had to, you could get this apart. But what's hard is getting like this thing wired, glued in, and then this wired on and doing the excess wire. What do you do with it? Because I mean, there's gonna be some. And so what I had to do here was, that's how I broke the other one, by the way, is I had to rip this back out after, because I mistakenly glued this in first. Dumb move. I'm talking about the little holder part, the gray plastic piece. I glued that down, wired this up, and then tried to get it in there. Oh, not good. That's what broke the other one. So yeah, I took it apart, stuck this guy back in there, and that way I only had a little bit of wire sticking out at the end and was able to get it in there. But where's that other one at? It's over there. I've got a different type of Obi-Wan Kenobi saber over here, and this is built differently, and there's a ton of extra wire, and it's very difficult to figure out what to do. I really hope it works whenever I go to finish putting it together. But anyway, what I'm going to work on right now is this chassis, and let me put this stuff off to the side. I'm going to leave it here so it's like in the camera shot and looks all dope. Unlike, if anybody's ever seen like one of the Graflex style, which is the like original hilt style sabers, the reason they call it that is that's the brand of like the camera flash tube the very first saber was made out of. You can see the clamp says Graflex on there. But on this saber, I don't need to put buttons underneath this. That's where they would be, like on a Luke Skywalker or Anakin Skywalker style saber, because this has buttons over here. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. This pommel right now, it's vented underneath this. I will take this off so that you can actually hear the sound come out of it, because that'd be pretty obnoxious if you couldn't. All right, so here's this chassis, and here's what I got going on. It's got a speaker in the end, and these speakers are actually, they come from model trains. That's who uses these things. It's real fancy model trains. This tiny, it's 28 millimeter speaker. It's designed to like be a little bassy, which is what you want. The cool thing about like what's going in here is the control board that'll go here will constantly draw power off of the battery. So what you have to have, and this will make the battery stay charged forever whenever it's not being used, is this little switch right here. It's a little tiny high amp kill switch. And so like right there would be on, right there would be off. So the way that works is, and this is pretty clever, the negative battery terminal wires straight to that. And then the other end of the switch comes up here, which we'll get to in a minute. So when I'm soldering, I probably won't be able to talk much, which is everybody's probably thinking, thank God, right? Oh my God, that would be the best if you could just shut up, and I get it. So the last thing I'm going to talk about here before I get going on this is, so here are the switches, and those will line up with these once I have it together. And so when you insert it, you have to be real careful. And once I'm actually done and getting ready to be finished with this and send it off, I'll put hot glue across these to make it a little more resilient, because you could see those contacts are tiny and it wouldn't take a lot to accidentally skin them off, but hot glue will cover them up just fine. I just want to wait until it's completely done just to be sure, because I mean, listen, components fail. I've had plenty of electronic components come in bad. Like out of 100, you'll have 2 that don't work, and you do your best to test them ahead of time, but it can be difficult. Anyhow, let's do this thing. I bought a new soldering pencil for my soldering station that's over here, and it doesn't work. So that's pretty great. That's how today's going. All right, you being good? Good boy. Okay. Well, I brought that blanket. You don't want to weigh on blanket? Okay, it's okay. It's all right. Okay. So the trick here, I'm telling you, is to use use different colored wires or you'll make yourself crazy. Yeah. So what I'm going to start with, I need to have these two leads. These are the hot leads that will go to the blade. Those will stay on all the time, like connected all the time. And I need to hook the battery terminal to it, and I need to hook the control board to it. So what I'm going to do, I think the best way to go about this is solder all three of these bad boys together and then put a lead on it that comes out that I can hook to the board. That way I can put heat shrink tubing on it whenever I'm done. All right, let's do that. Do I have any extra wire laying around here? I put together a ton of these speakers ahead of time too. Okay, here we go. Let me grab a piece of wire. There you go. Yeah, you're on a blankie. Good doggy. Okay, be right back. It's okay. Just stay there. We're not going anywhere. No, lay down. Here's that other Obi-Wan Kenobi saber I was talking about. They call this the Desert Wanderer. And this is like his Kenobi series lightsaber. The shroud of the emitter's off. It's like, that looks dumb. No, that's not how it's going to be. But so across here, if this part comes out of the grenade section, I have not figured out how to do it. And that's what made it so difficult, is because I couldn't take this apart. So I had to wire the part that comes out here, put it up in there and glue it in, and then be able to get that piece outside of this cup, the blade holder, get it wired, and then do something with the extra wire that was like this long. And there's 5 of them. I had to twist it in and get it down. So the extra wires like all twisted up inside this. This thing is cool looking too. And naturally, they cleverly made it to where it was just different enough than his episode 4 saber that they could sell more stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of cynical of me, but let's face it, we all know I'm right. Let me get rid of this. Okay, you're a good boy. Yeah. All right. No, sit down. No, I don't need your help right now. Okay, here, why don't I bring your blankie closer? Here, you want to lay over here? Here, come on. There you go. Lay down on your blankie. That's a good boy. All right. Soldering iron. No, lay back down. Lay back down. That's a good boy. All right. Let's get a little piece of red wire. How long does it need to be? Realistically, not long. Make it easy on myself, though. This is 24 gauge wire, mil-spec wire. And the handy thing about this is that the diameter of the jacket is super thin. I realize this is difficult to see. But because I bought some wire when I first got into saber building, it was the right gauge, but the jacket on it was so fat that it wouldn't, like, I couldn't fit all the stuff in here. But all right, I'm gonna shut up for a minute and I gotta put on the super magnifying glasses here. Oh, that's it. It's like I'm 18 again. Hey, stop chewing on that. Just lay on it, ding dong. Let's get that a little longer. Okay. Stop. Okay, hold on a second. You stop that. No, don't chew on that. No. No. Just lay there, okay? Yeesh, dog slobber. All right. Oh, darn it. Well, that's actually not terrible. You are going to tear that blanket up and you're going to have nothing to lay on. You're going to get that in your tummy and it's not going to feel good. It's like butt floss. All right. Actually. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and solder these first. Where's my solder? Oh, there it is. Helping hands, that's what these things are called. It's a miracle. Hoff, he is a good boy, man. This doggy. I wish I knew a name for him. I don't want to give him one and have it not be his name. I would just quit looking for his owner, but he's a little too aggressive with my cat. Of course, I think it's kind of my cat's fault. I should mention that commentaries on my soldering techniques are unwelcome in this place. But if anybody's interested, so a lot of like a common misconception is that you put the solder on the iron and like drip it into the wire, but that's not what you want to do. What you really want to do is get your surface hot enough. Like, for example, I'd touch the wire out here if you can see it, and then put the solder against the wire and let that draw the solder into the wire braids. This helping hand is a miracle. There you go. I used to try to do these like freehand, holding all those wires together and get not very successful. I just bought this little soldering iron cleaner. Dang, that worked pretty good. You want to keep the tip of the soldering iron tinned, by the way. Yeah, I took him to a vet first thing, and they like scanned his entire body to see if he had a chip in him, because people don't realize those chips will shift. They put them between their shoulder blades, but they end up like sometimes down in their forelegs or who knows where. And yeah, they scanned and scanned and scanned. So I'm a little concerned that he seems very well taken care of, and he's more or less like potty trained, house trained. But where he was at and the lack of like anybody reaching out about him makes me wonder if he was dumped there. He's a good doggy. Can you lay down? You walking around behind me is kind of making me nervous. All right, let's have a look at this and see how it did. Oh my gosh, this soldering iron cleaner is the best thing that ever happened to ever. All right, how'd this come out? It's a beaut. All right, so obviously I can't leave that open like that. All right. All right. Where's that heat shrink tubing? Shasha. Heat shrink tubing's a miracle too. Let's take about half of this. I have had these wire strippers since like 1998. They do an okay job, but they don't go small enough for this sort of stuff. They say it goes down to 26 gauge, but like my switch wires and stuff are 32 gauge. But anyway, what I do use them for is cutting crap that I don't want to cut with my good wire strippers. Okay. All right. Okay, so heat shrink does exactly what it says. Over here, let's see if I can turn this. I've got a rework soldering station. So what that is a hot air gun. And what it's not for is shrink and heat shrink tubing. But that's what I use it for. What it's really for is flashing an entire like components worth of solder at one time. They use it for surface mount soldering, which I will talk more about in a minute. But I do use it for shrink and heat shrink tubing by turning the temperature all the way down on it, because I mean it'll put out like 500 degrees Celsius air. And Hoff, have you seen the ones that have the it's like a plate and it's got the 4 articulating arms? Yep, surface mount resistors, man. That's the thing. Okay, come here, you. Let me turn this hot air on. You probably noticed my light flickering. That's pretty common when you're using a hot air gun like this. Let's turn you back off, because it's constantly pulsing to try to regulate the temperature just so. But anyway, I know it's hard to see, but man, it shrunk that heat shrink tubing down like nobody's business. It's not going to come off. It's perfectly molded to the shape. It's really good stuff. All right. Well, really, there's nothing left to do except... Sweet, man. I didn't even mean to go that. Okay, so let me tell you something about this soldering station I have. It is some generic thing. The brand name on it is Zenny, Zeny. I got it on Wish. Laugh away. I deserve it. But like, it's pretty neat, except I've had issues with the iron. Every now and then, it's like the sensor, the way they work is it sends power to the tip to get it hot. There's a heater inside of it, and then like a return thing that measures the temperature so that it can constantly try to keep it at the temperature you want. It's not like, one of those things where it's like you turn it on and it's on, you turn it off and it's off. It can regulate the temperature pretty accurately. But like the sensor error would go and it would say SE, and suddenly it's done heating the thing, and it freaking sucks whenever you're really trying to get a bunch of stuff done here. But anyhow, all right, let's find one of the boards for it. Bad. Okay. We'll use one of these new ones. All right. So what I'm putting in here for the ultra nerds, if you've ever tried to build a saber, listen. Also, I want to tell you, I am not like an expert saber builder where I crank these out by the truckload. I just do them one at a time for fun for people. But what I'm putting in here, it's a Profi version 2.2. And you actually have to program this thing. kind of like you would like you use Arduino to do it, and it's got a little USB port on it, and anyway, it's super rad. The guy who designed this is a genius, and it's open source. Like, he just tells you how to make one. You can buy etched boards and all the components and make them yourself, but let me tell you, that is not my bag. I my hands are too shaky for that. You can see if it'll focus on it. It's got all this surface mount stuff on there. As a matter of fact, I've got one that I burnt one of the transistors on by accident, totally my fault. And it's this one, and you can see it. There's like a point up in it as the inside of it combusted. But I bought a replacement to try to put it in, and I'm not looking forward to that as an experiment because it's really tough to see, right? But I realized the camera is not wanting to focus on it correctly. But these things have like 4 conductors on a side. These little tiny transistors. Let me hold it up to the... never mind, that sucks. Okay, forget it. All right, well, yeah, let's wire this up right here. Let me get that. Now, the beauty of this design is just this wiring has to hide behind the board in this. The board's just going to sit on these little rails and get glued in. So there's tons of space. Thank God. That's because that's usually one of the hardest things about building a saber, and saber builders will call it like cram foo. You have to be really good at hiding all the wires, but with this, it is going to be a definite piece of cake. So I actually need to bring up the wiring diagram for this thing. There we go. Okay. So. Yup. Just bear with me while I look at this. Yeah. Here, I'll move my arm so you can stare at the wonder that is this thing. Okay. My data line goes there. My switches go show and show. Switch 1. Yes. All right. Oof. Those are already common. That's quite handy. All right, let's do this thing. Here we go. The trick with soldering this stuff is get in, get out. Because it doesn't take long to accidentally destroy one of these things. All right. Oh yeah, I can easily hide all that. I'll try to look at the chat when I can. Sorry. The bad thing about building lightsabers is that every mistake you make costs money, sometimes a lot. And man, I'll tell you, I've made my share of mistakes learning how to do this. But all right. So first things first. Clamping is really the key. Hang on, I need to look at this with this guy too. Is this how we're gonna do it? You dirty butthole. There. Now the gauge of the wire is such that like when you stick it through there, the jacket will come through the hole, which you don't want, obviously, because soldering to the jacket does nothing for you. So, would you stop it? Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. Come on. You can see that pad is right by that transition. Well, you might not be able to see it. I realize I'm looking right at it like hardcore. All right. Come here, you. 10, 10, 10. Well, why don't I not 10 it right above the thing? Okay, here we go. Yeesh. Oh, you butthole. Oh, you know what? Gosh, Struthers, you got to be smarter than that. Haha, here's the key right here. Boink, boink. Let's get you out of there. I don't need this to be a jumper wire. I need it to act as a positive stop. So that's what I'll do. Clamp it on. I don't want that sticking out past there. Beauty. Come on, butt face. I talk like this whenever nobody's watching, too, so. Let me bring this back. Well, you don't want to go through there now? Are you too good for your home? Meep. Something on my little stop thing here is wrecking this whole deal. I think this is actually more trouble than it's worth. Anything I'm going to get out of having that clamped on there. A lot of times my preference would be to actually solder this from the other side, like solder it from the same direction the wire's going in. But the componentry is so small. It's really difficult to like flash the solder. Are you in there? No. You know what? Forget you. It was a good idea and concept. Perfect. All right, finally. Meh. I should have done this from the other angle. Neat. I used to be married to a lazy Laura. Hey yo. All right, how'd that look from that side? That looks great. Don't worry, it's just the neighbor's dogs. They're not going to get in here and hurt you. Shush. I know. It's okay. Yeah, you're doing a good job of keeping us safe. Thank you. Would you stand in the place where you live? Okay, shh. I need you to shush, okay? Yeah, here, just lay back down. It's okay. It's all right. No, shh. It's okay. All right. Neat. Okay. Shh. All right. I got you. Now data. Which one's data? Did I? Data. Is that one? All right. I usually save the switches for last because the wiring is so little and like it's so easy to accidentally break it, like where they connect. I mean, it takes nothing. All right. So 24 gauge for the power, 2 of them, just to handle the current draw. And 28 for the data line. So to keep noise, like electrical noise, off the data line, you have to put resistors in, either in the blade itself, in series with it, in line with it, and the inventor of this board, Frederick something something, has it pre-resisted, which is fantastic because adding a resistor in line 6, the people who make the those connectors I was showing you with the concentric circles, they make them to where you can put a surface mount resistor on there. If you never try to do a surface mount solder with no solder paste and conventional solder, it's the worst. But the problem with solder paste is, and I didn't know this, is that it's only good for so long after you open it, and it has to be refrigerated post opening. I'm looking at this through a magnifying glass, so it's like my depth perception for it sucks. There'll be times where I'm trying to solder and it's like, oh, why won't it go? And I'm like super far apart, like an idiot. There, look at you. Is that good? That looks good. All right. Okay. So that's the blade, all that part of it wired up. Now we can wire, these two are the switches, black and blue. And then these, the brown and yellow. You're probably thinking, do the colors mean anything? No. They mean I'll have something different to look at so I don't mess it up. That's what it means. Obviously, like black and red's your traditional colors for speaker, or inexplicably black and white. Black and red, the red is hot, the black is negative. And if it's black and white, the black is now the positive and the white's negative. Super handy and not confusing at all. Let's see. We can trim some of this back. Do I want to, though? Because there's plenty of room for it. Yeah, we'll even them up. The speaker wire's 28 gauge also. Oh, these wire strippers are the best. I love them. I don't know if you can see this, but like when I strip these back, I mean, I need just the smallest amount of wire. That was one of the things that I had a hard time getting used to, was only leaving a teeny tiny bit stripped, because you can't have that excess hanging out. Let's see which one's positive. 1, 2, 3, 4 down. 1, 2, 3. So the speaker net positive is the fourth one down. All right. Which one's positive? If I know me, the yellow's positive and the brown is the negative. Because close I get to red and white, or red and black. Let me see. Here's one that I did just exactly the same way. Yes, yellow, positive. Good job, me. You did it. Okay. Yellow's positive, brown's negative. Now I know you can't see it on the camera, but there are the teeniest, tiniest symbols screened on this circuit board here. Come on. You can do it. Yep, I know. So right now I'm not clamping this because I'm able to actually use the tension of the existing wires to get it to stick exactly where I want. You know what I'm saying. Strippers are the best, Sean. They genuinely are. Yeah, see, this is where like the depth perception thing becomes an issue. Why won't it work? I'm soldering it. Oh wait, I'm not even close to the board. Oh, for Pete's sake, come on. What's this big pile of crap coming off my soldering iron? Oh my gosh. Ah, look at that. That's a beautiful, beautiful solder joint right there. It's crazy to think about why do you have to use a heavy gauge wire for like the power to the blade when plainly it's not it's not heavy gauge circuit traces on here on the board, and while that does remain true, the amount of current you can draw on a conductor that's only so long is pretty high. All right. There. I need one of those rubber mats that's got the all like the hatch lines on them for measuring, that you always see everybody who works on stuff like this have on their desk instead of just this empty old wooden desk of mine. Wooden. All right, look at that. Man, we're cooking with gas now. So we've got the positive left, and we've got the battery negative, and what else? Where is that battery negative? Let's get you out here. Here it is. Yeah, we can take some of you off. Nah, let's leave the whole thing on. What gauge is this? 24. All right. Where does this thing go? I feel like I almost have it memorized, but I don't. Hang on one second. I will get to it soon. I promise. Got a lot going. All right. Okay. There's my mouse. Okay. Right. Okay. So next. I don't know if you can see this at all. He should have this long before episode 400 comes along. So right here, let me get something to point with. This is probably completely not visible, but right here, this terminal and this terminal are already bridged together, which is quite handy. But anyway, my negative battery terminal goes to one of them. Let's see, how do I want you to lay down when this is all done? If I turn you like that, I want you... All right. Yeah, it's not too long. It's a little longer than what I did. It's okay. That's probably just Tucker. I know. Don't worry. He's a good boy. It's okay that he's probably in his yard and we just hear it over here. It's all right. Can you lay back down? You listen to me, Rick. I work at a church, man. Sunday's a work day for me. I take Friday off. Sort of. You're all right. That's not... puppy, it's okay. All right. I know. Oh, okay. You want to lay down by my feet? That's fine. Just don't bump into my arm right now. Butte. Okay. What's left? We got the hot. We can just go ahead and do that. Right. And then switches, and that's it. Nice. Okay. Shorten this up here. All right, where's the plus? Hang on, I gotta look at the drawing here. Yeah, okay. Hang on, let me get my arms out of the way, sorry. Yeah. Oh, dang, man. That's rad looking. Is that... What's that huge truss for? Is that... I'm looking at this picture Rick sent me. Is that all for lighting? Oh, yeah. Ooh, dang. That is cool. Is that... What venue is that? If you're not at liberty to say. I understand. All right. Battery. Ah. Goes right next to those. So. Whoops. Strand folded down. You cannot have that. I'm actually going to want... Nah, it'll be alright. I can flip it around once it's in there. Maybe this will help. Would you come on here, please? I'm gonna have to clamp this down. This thing's getting on my nerves. Excellent. All right. I cannot imagine building one of these by hand. One of these boards, I mean. Oh my gosh. You'd have to lock me up after that. Perfect. All right, all that's left now is the switches. So let's do this. Now, the way those switches work is they're just the switch just shorts the two wires together. Is essentially what happens. And what I used to try to do was wire like both of the common wires, the white ones, to the same terminal on the circuit board, which is like really not a cool work practice for stuff like this. So now I don't do that. What I am gonna do is, let's see here. So most of this on the board, so like you've got the actual controller right there, and the rest of it is essentially like resistors, uh, the like actual power section of the output to drive the blade and stuff like that. That's basically all there is to it. You know, and obviously like the little interface for the USB, and on the other side's the SD card slot. But yeah, it's all essentially coming to this guy right here. All right. How do I want to do this? Let's see. Whoops. Ah, dang it, not you. Um, I can use that. And I can use that. Well, let's just do it like that. Switch 1. Switch 2. All right, perfect. So what we'll do here is switch number 1 is the black one. That'll be plenty. So the trick with this is, unfortunately, like I said, this is 32 gauge. And my wire strippers only go down to 30. And so this is slightly smaller. You just kind of got to drag it through at an angle if you can. What sucks is when you're trying to do that and there's like you have exactly the amount of wire that you need sticking out of something and you accidentally scrape off a couple strands. Then you start doing the math in your head about, okay, well, it's not very much current draw, so I'm sure it's probably fine. Which in actuality is probably always the case in situations such as this. Yeah, come here, you butthole. All right. Oh, I didn't get enough on that one. I'll tell you what, contacts have been a stinking lifesaver for this sort of thing. Very good. Very good. All right. Let me see how that looks. All right. These are the connections I hate doing. It's because it's so tiny. The wire, I mean. It's just a trash truck, doggo. Don't worry. Shield. It's just a furnace, dude. It's alright. Don't be scared. We're in the basement. Whew. Man, that looks good. I'll tell you what, if I ever started doing lots of these, I should get one of those like video microscopes that I could also pass to the stream. That way you guys could actually see up close what's going on, and also just how shaky my hands are when you look at them through a magnifying glass. I mean, they probably look shaky enough without the magnifying glass, but you should see it from this end. It's pretty rough. Let's move you over here like so. All right, the ground first. Feel like I need to take one of these helping hands and fill it with the entire base of it with lead, like even more. Are you in there? Man, I keep drifting further and further out of the frame here with this. There. You mother smells. Oh, for Pete's sake, get out of the magnifying glass. There's not enough solder on that pad, is there? There is now. Let me strip this back a little bit more. I think I forgot to tell this story on the motivators. The motivators and the Sith list this week, but maybe I did. I can't remember. But I had to put a new volume pot in my guitar. Pot is short for potentiometer, and it's essentially well, it's not essentially, it's exactly a resistor that's a variable resistor that's built on like a wiper and arm architecture, that as you turn said arm, which is hooked to the actual knob part, it increases or decreases the resistance. But anyhow, I go through them, man. I use a real specific one on a couple of my like super strat style guitars. It's made by Borns, and Eddie Van Halen used them for like the song Cathedral, if you've ever seen him play it live, and he does every note's a volume swell. And you want a pretty low friction volume pot to be able to do that. And now his company EVH has their own, which is the exact same pot made by Borns, I'm sure, but they say EVH on them. So naturally they're worth $1 billion. But anyhow, I just happen to have two of them in their original little bags. And so I forgot until Saturday night. It's like 10 o'clock. And it's like, oh crap, I was going to do that so that I didn't have to constantly be fiddling with my volume pot when it would like want to cut out and get scratchy. So I go do it, and I'm thinking, first of all, listen, I love my guitars, these custom guitars I have made for me, but the way that they wired, if anybody's familiar with guitar wiring, basically every piece of metal is hooked together as like a common ground. And what they did is they used a braided, shielded cable to go down to the output jack, which is fine. That's good practice to do. I don't like that. But they used the exterior braid as the bridge between the volume pots, or the volume and tone pots. which in theory is neat as can be. However, the one on the tone pot wasn't even still connected, which explains a handful of things. And I was having the worst time getting the solder to flow into the braid on the volume section of it. It just wouldn't stick to it. I realize stick to it is not precisely what solder does, but you understand what I mean. It wouldn't connect. And I messed with it, finally had it. And I mean, here's the thing, it's a volume pot. It's a pretty common repair on a guitar. I've done tons of them in my day. You can probably guess where this is going. Well, it was late. Amanda wanted to watch TV. We were going to watch an episode of Lost, which I'm getting close to the end of. And I didn't want to turn on a guitar amp, so I didn't test it. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. But because I had to keep pouring heat on that stupid thing to get it, to try to get the braid to connect to it, that I ended up apparently burning the wire inside that was I'm putting air quotes around it mentally, the hot wire that leaves the controls and heads to the for Pete's sake, I need to clamp this guy down, the output jack. Okay, so I get there, sound check, here I go, no sound, nothing. No sound around these parts, no sir. And which of course I was thrilled with. So one of my tech guys there has a butane soldering iron, and I ripped the back of the guitar open real quick, took a network cable, skinned it, got a piece of wire, yeesh, redid the thing, and off I go. Well, sound was coming out, but the volume control didn't do anything. It was full on because apparently I burnt the pot inside and shorted it across, which, was sounded good, I guess, but I had to put another one in. It just goes to show you, man, that's why when it comes to soldering, in and out, nobody gets hurt. That needs to be your approach. Okay, how'd we do? I'm looking at it with the magnifying glass here. Yep. So you're probably thinking, there sure are a buttload of terminals on that circuit board, and you've only hooked up a handful of them. Let me see if I can turn this guy towards the camera better. Right? I mean, look at all of them. And I've only used a few. Well, what are all the other ones for? Well, that's a good question. But what they're for is you can have accent LEDs, which would be on some sabers where if I put an in-hilt charging port on it, I'll put hook a LED to it, so whenever the saber starts it flashes and all that, and it looks real nifty. You can hook more LEDs to it, secondary pixel strips, if I had a Kylo Ren style saber and I wanted the main blade to ignite and then the side blades to ignite, I could wire that way. And what's cool is that you can wire it like that and then program them to operate in relation to each other however you so desire. And it's really pretty nifty. Okay, let me look at one thing here. Yep. So there's a data transmit and receive. There's you can have more buttons. You can have like a reset. You can have voltage out for the USB. There's a tap for the SD card's power. Yeah. All right. Well, listen. That is it for this wiring. Now, okay, listen. I need if Hawes goes back and watches this, I think it'd be funnier if it was like a surprise to him. But if anybody has any audio samples of Hawes that they think would make a hilarious Saber font, I please send them to me, because I can make my own font. One I thought about in particular is like whenever you very first turn it on, if it was him going oh, woo 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 woo, and just go from there, and obviously a sheesh for the blade extending. Yeah, exactly. That's what I need. So if anybody wants to, if you don't know, if you don't have the the software and you want to isolate it for me, you can go ahead and just send the timestamps. Oh, that would be excellent, because I would put one together, and because what I want it to do is the very first one, that the way it turns on is that it would sound superficial and very Obi-Wan Kenobi like, naturally. Oh my gosh, having all this wiring space in here is the best. I mean, look at how much space there is in there. I mean, I've built sabers where it's like, I've got this other Kenobi saber somewhere around here that I originally thought about using when I found it in my inventory, and it's made by a manufacturer called Parks, and the internal diameter of their sabers is 7/8 of an inch, and man, there is not a ton you can do with that. Like, this board won't fit in there, and you end up having to make some real exceptions on how fancy it can be. Like, I've got some control boards made by Nigon Electronic Customs, I think is what it's called, NEC. And that dude, he's a real good guy, man. He really poured a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the architecture of it. So what'll happen is I will glue this in like so. And let it cure. Right? What does that sound? Oh, it's one of my cats carrying on. So what I try to do from a glue standpoint is sniff it. No, I'm just kidding. What I try to do is use E6000 glue, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. Anybody who's ever built Stormtrooper armor probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, I see. That's why it won't go, because it's literally shelved right there. So you can get these printed for specific control boards. There's a handful of manufacturers for these. And like, how I was saying these are open source before? What people do is they'll make runs of them and sell them. So, oh my gosh, when I made that whole cut of that, him doing the bass line from Schism, that's that name of that song, right? Oh my gosh, I was pretty proud of myself. Anyhow, the this glue, the E6000 glue. It's pretty strong. It's and you can get it off. It's more of a like rubber cement kind of thing, right? But if that doesn't hold it the way I want, then I'll put super glue on it. But do I go ahead and glue it down now? How confident do I feel about this? Because I can't really test it, you know? Not until it's inserted in the chassis or in the body of the saber. And I can't put it in there without that soundboard secured. And there's not enough space to like put a Velcro strap around it instead. Trust me, I know. Fluke 87. Classic meter here. Thank you to my former employer. Let's just check this thing out. Of course, I won't be able to hold it on the terminals I need. Yeah, this is going to be an exercise in futility here. All right. I know. I know, puppy. All right. I'm pushing the button on the other side is what I'm doing. Checking for continuity just to make sure. What did I do? Cool. All right. So Kevin, I actually tried that too. I used what am I trying to say here? I used painter's tape, and you know, because the adhesive is it's supposed to not leave any residue, and I mean they make it so tight inside there that like as you put it in, it just will skin it off. There's a really tight tolerance in there. I mean, it won't like take all of it off, but it would take enough of it off that I'd be worried about it coming loose. So Hoff, I could like throw a battery in there. Actually, I don't have a battery ready for it, and test it. But like, I mean, as far as being able to see if it lights up the LEDs on this guy, right? Until it's in there. I mean, I could try doing this number right here and then turning it on. That's probably not the worst idea in the world before I glue that down. So, you know what? We can try that. We can do that. I'd want to get this really on there good. Ugh. Well, that's what'll happen if I do it wrong. Let's turn this soldering iron off for a minute. Battery. Let me think. What do I have that I could use? Look out, doggo. I don't want to run over you, okay? Oh, you're a good boy. Huh? You a good boy? Yes, you are. You're a good boy. Mm-hmm. Want your tummy patted? Oh, okay. Good boy. Yeah, you're being so gentle. What a good dog. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. I gotta look for something here. Don't let me run over you. Okay. No, we're not going anywhere. No, no. Don't get excited. Uh. Oh, don't let me forget. I gotta order new contacts today, okay? What? This isn't food? It's a battery. Look. I told you. Alright, let's see if this thing's got any voltage. Because I wired this button top battery. I added leads to it a long time ago. And I can't remember if I left the button top intact. I feel like I did. Well, I can see it right there. Well, let's just find out, shall we? Volts DC. Yeah, it's not stripped enough to be able to see it. .4 volts. I mean, it's supposed to be 3.7. What could I do? I could wire it to a charge port real quick. Well, let's see if it's got enough voltage in it to perform this function. Oh, cramming that in there makes me nervous. Let's see. Side cutters. So, if you didn't know it, now I made this, but this is just like a cellophane style heat shrink tubing. That this is how batteries are typically made. If you open some brands of like AA batteries, like if you cut that outside like that paper skin off, hey, it's not a party down there. It would be a bunch of small cells stacked on top of each other. No, I sure don't. I do have a I do have a charger that I could wire a charge port to the thing if I needed to. What's going on here? Come here, you. All right. think I let that, I think I let that hot wire touch the body of this thing. All right. Oh, that wire is going to be right in the stupid way. What dummy did this? It was me. I'm not confident that it's making contact in there. Guess I can find out. Wrapping my voltmeter leads back up when I'm done with it. It's just such a habit. Which is good, but man, it's annoying when I use it 10 seconds after I used it the first time. Alright, it should be you and you. Nah, that positive isn't making connection in there for some reason. Unless the overcurrent circuit opened or something. Let's find out. Let me move where you can see this. Let me move this gross stuff out of the way. All right, volts DC. Nah, it just opened. Or that bottom lead isn't making contact. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. This Fluke 87 was to replace another one that had the clash, so I'll turn this backlight on. See how it's this nice, pleasant, slightly bluish white. My other one was a had that like puke green that they used to use. It was a beauty. Okay, well there's voltage there. There's voltage there. I just don't think it's making contact up at the top. Hmm. That makes 0 sense. Well, Okay. I guess my switch is open? I don't know. Um, no, 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 no. Stay. Okay, well, I got voltage up there. It's just like this switch isn't doing anything. That's pretty unhandy. Okay, well, what do we do? I don't have any glue in there that's stopping it from working. Hmm. Let's see. Uh, well, I may be popping this kill switch out of here. That's just what I want to do. Yep, that's what I'm gonna have to do. So let's get this battery out of here. Ouch. Okay. How do I go about getting this out of here? Stop it. All right. Yeah, it's not making. Okay, well, let's do this then. Let's. I don't have any way to get to that switch and get it out of there without getting the speaker out of the way. Well, wait, do I? Is that accurate? Yeah, let's pop this speaker out of there. So that's why I like to use E6000 glue when I can. Because it is defeatable. It does a good job of holding, but you can get it out of there when you need it to. You need to. Let's see if I can. I don't want to knock my speaker wire off. I mean, not that soldering that back on would be hard, but if I don't have to, you know. Oh, you're halfway there now. Look at that. It's a miracle. There. Come on. So now I'm going to have to pick all this glue off. All right, you. What's the deal here? Okay, so here's my battery terminal. Okay. That side of the switch works. But this one doesn't. Why? Well. Hold on. Let's just have a look up in here. Get out of the way, speaker. Well, tell you what we can do is unfortunately, I did a really good job gluing that in there. I have a gig Sunday, so I don't want to like accidentally jam a sharp tool through the palm of my hand. I can see you moving around in there, you butthole. Ah, here you come. Once again, E6000 glue. It's where it's at. All right. So, what it amounts to is this. The switch, the way this thing works, can you see it? Can you see the terminals of it? The middle terminal is the common. And then when the switch is this way, the common's connected to that terminal. And when it's the other way, it's connected to the other terminal. And for whatever reason... Oh, wait a minute. It feels like it's throwing substantially better now. Let's see. Hold still, you. Oh my gosh. Nah. Okay. So, what are we going to do about that? Let's see this. Gotta wait for this soldering iron to heat back up. Man, I appreciate everybody hanging out and watching this too, by the way. Um, Now I haven't programmed this Profi, so I don't know what would actually happen when I turn it on. I have to connect it. I don't have the Arduino software on this laptop here. I'd have to go to my crappy old Windows machine. The other room. Come on, soldering iron, you're almost there. All right. I'm gonna throw these on. Laugh away. All right, you. There. So earlier when I was debating on whether or not I should um, cut more of that wire off, I opted for no, and it's circumstances just like this that are the reason why. All right, butt face. Actually, you know what? Let's check something. I checked all of these switches when I got done with them. So what's going on? Okay. Yeah, it's just the terminal itself. We'll just do this. All right. And I wanted it so that it went in there like so. Right? Yep. All right. Just like that. Just going to put a new switch in its place. like how that looks. Darn it. What am I doing wrong here? You. Why is this so tough at this angle? Now let's see if it makes. Meter. Check. What just fell? Hope it wasn't something important. Success. All right. Let's try this again. Come here, you. All right.
Directory not found. SD card not found.
Sweet. So it's telling me that it can't see the SD card because it's not in there. So Where are they? Are these the ones I most recently got? Probably. Yeah, I'd say so. All right. So everybody that's going to Celebration, if you see a booth over there for KR Sabers, the guy's name, I don't know how he pronounces it. It's KHAL, I think. But anyway, if you see him, tell him I said hello. Super good supplier of Saber stuffs. All right. SD card's going to go in. Now, here we go. Hee hee. Money, baby. Rad ass. All right. Let's get this battery out of here. First thing I'm going to do is clip these little leads back off. So for any Saber enthusiasts out there, if you ever have problems with a Saber, like suddenly the audio sounds like a turd sandwich, it's typically because the battery's low. It's almost never anything wrong with the speaker. It just means the battery's too low. So now that sound that we just heard is like the generic sound fonts. That's what they refer to the set of sounds as. On the SD card, and I'm going to procure a really accurate Episode 4 Kenobi font for it. But now what we got to do, get this battery out of here, turn my soldering iron off, and glue these components back in. The battery, a real battery, well, this is obviously a real battery, would come out of this easier than this. But this is one that I had soldered leads on, the top and bottom, so you can see it's got an extra bump there in it. Where is that little case? All right, so I guess now all I can do is glue this stuff back in and wait for it to cure. And then put it all in the Saber and see what happens. Oh, you know what I could have done? While I had this in there. Let me see. How confident do I feel about this lining up? There's way too much play in it. I'm not going to do that. I was going to say I could try holding it up to it and doing it, but without the chassis to keep it perfectly lined up, I'm afraid that like the hot would connect with the data pin or something. And that'd just be the end of that, wouldn't it? So yeah, we shan't do that. Come on, you. Excellent. All right. Orbtronics. This company makes some gnarly batteries. They're like a performance flashlight company. But typically the most of your good 18650 cells are made by Panasonic. They don't mess around. Orbtronics. Orbtronic. Okay, so let's do this. Now it's time for the glue. Yeesh. What order do I want to do this in? I'll do the switch first. This stuff's pretty gross. I mean, like I said, luckily you can peel it off. One of the things I normally do with it is where'd it go? I'll keep some toothpicks around to use it, like to paint the stuff on there. So I don't have to get it on my fingers because it grosses me out. I used a ton of this whenever I built my stormtrooper armor. You can also use hot glue for this, but it's trickier because well, for one, it's hot, obviously. All right, let's get this thing in there. So it has to be in there really far because whenever it gets inserted into the saber body itself, it'll shear that switch lever off. Don't ask me how I know that that's the case because I would rather not talk about it. Now, luckily, I've got the wires that are hooked to this are used to being in there in this configuration now after having been in it. So before I had to like clamp this guy in there with like a Velcro strap, and I took one of those little plastic bags and stuffed it down in there and strapped it down real tight to hold it. Because this stuff, unfortunately, it being able to be removed comes with the cost that it doesn't cure very fast either. Because like super glue, a lot of times I'll use just like a drop of super glue on one of these, like the speaker. Drop on each side and put it in there. But what happens then is a lot of times anybody who's worked with audio much, like install wise, like Rick would probably tell you, that when you don't have like a good solid connection all the way around, that's when, well, Rick, it was tough, and I was just talking about how great you were, but now I'm gonna take it back. You had to hand crank them. It's an Amish saber. I was getting ready to say, don't, if any Amish watching, please don't be offended, but then I realized they're probably not watching because they're Amish. Anyway, that if you don't have like a nice resilient connection all the way around, any place that it's not coupled to it hard will be a point of like rattling. And so what's nice about this is it like I said, it's pretty forgiving, but also because it's like slightly rubbery, it helps act as a damper for it. The only thing is when you're obviously gluing speakers, you just got to be careful to not get any where it's going to like impede the movement of the speaker, because they are the part that moves and makes sound. It's just paper usually. Stop it, Biff. All right, let's put this bad boy back in here. I wanted the brown one facing front. Sweet. So I've got just a hair of the glue up on the edge, like the dust cover edge of the speaker. Here's a question for everybody who's watching this, trivia question. What is mechanically and electrically the exact opposite of a speaker? Anyone? Come on, you. There. All right, we can go ahead and glue this board down. If anybody knows, drop it in the chat. No. You mean pickups, right? Like in a guitar, I'm assuming. No. Close, though. A microphone. A microphone, a dynamic microphone, like, almost every microphone you ever see somebody singing to on stage, is just the exact opposite of a speaker. A speaker is like a magnet. I'm going to put my hands out here. A magnet pointing at this diaphragm, and it uses voltage and just shoves the speaker out, and that creates airwaves that are what we hear as sound, right? A microphone does the exact opposite. It's like yelling into a speaker. That diaphragm moves and produces voltage on the output. And obviously much lower than you would have going to a speaker, because the speaker uses a powered amplifier. Let's do this. Let's get these back on. Let's get one of these Velcro strips and this guy. Will that be enough? Yeah, that'll be enough. Let's hold you down for a second. All right, so I'm going to glue. Where's that toothpick? There it is. Good job, Rick. You nailed it. Of course, the way the stream works, you probably answered that before I said it. Glue. Yar. Glue. Now, luckily, this glue doesn't conduct electricity. So if it gets on the wires or on the traces of the board or on the solder pads, it doesn't matter. It's not going to cause a short. It's not going to do any of that. All right, I'll put a little bit on the board too, just to be sure. Can always clean the excess off. Man, look at everybody coming in. So a pickup works. I'm trying to think of what like a pickup would be the opposite of. Because it's like a magnet surrounded by wire, like miles of it wrapped around it, and then the magnet's pole pieces above it. And so then, look at that. What did I do with that? What? There it is. There. Put you. I'm putting this piece of high-tech material here, also known as a section of paper towel, down to give me, I'll fold it in half one more time, just to give me some kind of leverage. To help provide downward force on this thing while it dries. All right. You. There. Ta-da! Now we're going to sit there and let it dry. I'm going to hold it perfectly still for the next 6 hours while you guys watch. Oh, this thing looks so neat. Well, there we go, guys. I mean, check it out. So what'll happen whenever this is done is, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and screw it on now. Hang on, let me put the lid on this glue. Yeesh. If anybody has ever figured out how to keep a tube of this, like where you roll it up like toothpaste and have that actually work out, let me know. Because every tube I've ever had, I start out with that intention and then it looks like this raggedy old thing here. But, all right. Let me unfold this. Go over there, toothpick. I guess I can cover up my tinning flux. Okay. So now, I'm going to take this back off. Yeesh. Oh my God, my left contact is driving me crazy. It's killing my eye. Okay, so this will live in here forever at this point. I don't need to really ever worry about taking it apart. But yes, I did check continuity between the ends. Why don't we do it right now, just to show. I'll turn on the tone so we can all hear it. So, the easiest way to do this, well, I don't know if we can actually make it clip on there or not. Yeah, sure. Okay. So we'll start with the outside pins. It's like I said, there's just this connector and one just like it on the other end. So we'll start with the outside ones, which are power. Nailed it. We'll move to the inside ones, which are the negative. Another term for the negative in a DC circuit there is sister-in-law. Oh, that was good. Nobody was here to hear it. Oh, it's making too much contact with the sides. So, here's what's cool. I don't know if you can... Ah, darn it. I put it on range. So I'm touching it to the middle pin, and I'm like, oh, balls. I don't hear it making the beep, beep, beep noise. Hang on. Okay. But because, remember how I told you the data line is resisted, it's also the guy who made these has it resisted. So whenever I touch the middle pins, you'll see, can you see that? It's 329 ohms. It's 330 ohms. And that's the resistance. So that's how I know it's connected. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, Eric, if there's one on each one of those, shouldn't it be 660 ohms? You're right. That is a good point you make. But what I did, let me show you one of these things. You see how this is made. Oh my gosh, I can't get the angle just right. Wish this had like variable focus or something. Wait, maybe it does. Where's G Hub at? Let's see. What do I want it to show? That's not it. Hang on, I'll find it. Thrilling, I know. Oh, for God's sake. Why can't you just use my stupid, focus? That's okay there. All right, so let me look at this other window. The way this is made. Come on, straight up and fly right, you stupid thing. There, beauty. Okay, so you've got remember the concentric circles on this guy? Right here? That lines up with these right here. And they're spring loaded, like I said. And so the one in the center is by itself. And then the circle around it is the negative. And then the ones on the outside are the positive. And then those little LEDs are wired in there. So if you look at the back of this monstrosity, right, there's teeny tiny surface mount resistors. And unfortunately, I've got this wired and there you can't really see them. Right where my thumb is. Right as the purple wire passes over the edge of the connector. You see it next to that orange? That's a surface mount resistor. And there was one next to it. But what I was able to do is if you look inside here, that middle pin is connected to that resistor network. But you can solder directly to it and hook it up that way. And so that way I don't have just piles of resistors in series impeding the thing. Impeding, get it? Probably not if you're not a electronics nerd. Another word for resistance is impedance, and that's why in speakers you'll usually say, what's the impedance of a speaker? Oh, it's 8 ohms, it's 4 ohms, it's whatever. It's resistance. Anyway, yeah, so here's what we'll do. We tested this, right? We know it's continuous out to here. And so we can just put it in there. And I mean, look at the way this thing's made, man. A lot of really good work went into this. The guy who did the weathering on this did a fantastic job. I'm super pleased with how it came out. But this is all like dark brass. This machine piece here with these fine threads. Anyway, so now on that other one I was showing you, the Desert Wanderer, if you guys were around when I showed that part, this piece doesn't seem like it screws out of this piece, which makes it pretty tough to work with. Easy, Biff. Come on. Why won't you go? I usually don't have this much problem screwing. Oh, that joke makes me happy. Very nice. This is the tough thing with fine threads. And we do not want to try to drive it past. Oh, it's tight. Just turn it a little harder and it'll go. No, you don't want to do that. It'll gall the surface and you'll never get it to work again. Let's move this guy out the way here. All right, what's stopping you? That's probably not helping. All right, here we go. Oh, darn it. So I've got a Luke Return of the Jedi hilt that has like two ends that screw on where this emitter is, where the blade holder is. What? Oh, big stretches, puppy. And there's one that's like basically what the saber looks like on the screen when it's not lit, and then the other one is for when you want a blade on it. You got to put like the blade holder on there. Well, what I did with the one I made for Saunders is I cut the hold on, puppy. I cut the one that is the blank one, the blind one, off, and used the top of it to make a blade plug so that you could put it in the blade holder and it would still light up with that little tiny piece in there. Oh my goodness, why is this such a pain in the butt? Oh, there it finally goes. Maybe. No. There. There. Now, in theory, this should never have to come out of there. Right? And then, once that's all dry, we can put it up in there and give it a go. And so the switches, you see, like when you get ready to put this in from this way, you got to line them up and slide it in there. And then once that's in there, pushed in, you can push these down and it presses the switches for you. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. This is the guy, like I said, who engineers these. His name's Rick. Finally a Rick that can do something. Anyway, he designs these, and man, he does a good job. To the point where most of the saber manufacturers send him CAD drawings ahead of time, or even the hilts, because he designs one of these. And he does all kinds. One of the things I told Hawes whenever I first mentioned this, and you know, like I told you guys, this is not a surprise, because there are so many like options for this that I wanted to make sure it was exactly what he wanted. It's like, for me, I probably wouldn't have gone, or I wouldn't have guessed that he would want the weathered one. But he's like, oh, no way, the weathered ones, and so on and so on. And then I asked him, do you like this episode 4 one better than, say, the Desert Wanderer? Where'd you go, doggo? Getting a drink? Anyway, so yeah, I asked him ahead of time. But one of the things I told him whenever I was getting ready to do this is like I've done lightsabers with crystal reveal chambers. I did a pretty cool one for Josh Nelson. I made one for myself. They're really neat. They are. There's a but coming. The number of times that I have opened mine to look at it does not justify the amount of work and cost it added to the build. I mean, seriously, you look at it a handful of times, the novelty wears off pretty quick. And unless you spend a ton of money on a super fancy chassis, like this guy that makes these, that designs these, he has them, because you can 3D print in metal and all kinds of stuff. He does chassis where just the chassis, I'm talking no electronics, no hilt, no nothing, is upwards of $1,000 just for the chassis. But they're beautiful. I mean, they are breathtaking works of art. What? Well, do you want to say hi? Huh? Well, come here. Here, you come up here. You want to come up on my lap? Here, I'll help you. Come on. Oh, good boy. Look at this handsome boy right here. Yeah, look at him. Oh, yeah, you're my buddy, huh? Yeah, this guy was like chasing cars and everything else. And I'm like, dude, it's like he was going to get run over. And so we went back, and because me and a coworker, we had left for lunch. And I was like, I can't live with myself if we don't stop. And I come back and find him, run over. And apparently people saw him, and he was running around with another dog. And they said that dog looked like it had been hit by a car, and it wasn't looking so good. And I saw no signs anywhere of that dog. But this dude, I had to spend 15 or 20 minutes trying to coax him over to me because he was all skittish. But now, ever since I got him, he hasn't left my side. Yeah, I know. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Did I quit petting you? Well, listen, guys, the only thing I can do now is let this thing dry. I don't want to start on the blade yet because I haven't had enough time to look at the componentry of it. New dog. Aw. But yeah, I think that's it for right now. This was a lot of fun, though. I'm glad we did this. Are you glad we did this? Huh? But what I'll do is once this is all dry and everything, I'll probably build the blade ahead of time, but then like show the pieces of it and construct another blade, or show how it gets constructed, and because that'll be cool to look at. And then we'll put this all together. We'll program it. I can probably get it to where I do the programming on the screen, so I'll just share the screen itself, so we can see what it looks like, and we'll program the thing. But guys, thanks so much for watching. This has been fun. Here, come on, I'll put you down. I know I haven't been streaming on the regular, and what? Okay, I know. But I miss doing it. It's just things have been kind of busy. I've got a gig this Sunday playing at the St. Louis Blues game during ahead of the game, and then during the first intermission at their little beer garden. So that'll be neat. And apparently the Blues suck this year. I'm not a hockey guy, so I couldn't tell you, but people said, yeah, maybe you'll be the most entertaining thing there. When people are like, I'm playing at the Blues game, they're like, you don't look like you're into hockey or sports at all. It's my heart. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Billy, is awesome seeing you in here. Rick, Chad, Kevin, Sean, you guys are the best. And thanks for being in here. If I missed anybody that was in the chat and I didn't see, Bearman Burrito, that is like the best name I've ever seen. Oh my gosh, it's so better than Mouserat2217. But anyway, guys, thank you. And I'll leave this little guy sitting right here. This looks cooler like this. And yeah, off we go. Have a good one.